Here I am with another state of the game after a balance patch, and it feels like we have one after the other with the new weapons and everything. But I'm not complaining, at least we didn't have a need in nerfs. Well, almost. But we had more buffs, so I will try not to complain too much. Like last time, I will go through each class and let you know how it was affected. So let's start with Elementalist. Elementalist got some nice reworks to Arcane Wave and Elemental Surge, so Heal Tempest got a 5% increase to healing with Aquamancer's training. But in addition to this, the heal radius for the first two waves of Wash the Pain Away was slightly increased. And we have a nerf too for Tempestus area trait, which only gives 5% condi damage increase instead of 10% now. Let's go to Mesmer, which again has some nice buffs for this patch, but they are targeted mostly to power-based builds, specifically Mirage and Virtuoso. I do not think this will be enough to compete with the Condi variants. Still, this is good that you have some choices now, and there is no need to always go Condi. Chrono wasn't left out and got some nice quality of life changes to Well of Precognition, and now it applies the 3 stacks of stability in its first pulse and not at the end. And now, for the last light armor class, we have Necromancer, which was the target of some buffs to swords and Power Harbinger builds specifically. It looks like a similar theme we had earlier with Mesmer, where the power builds were the focus for PvE. I'm not sure how well this will work with Reaper, as the Greatsword is the perfect weapon, but you can replace the staff with swords now, and probably in the next balance patch when Power Harbinger is buffed again, it will become meta. Let's go with Ranger now, which got the bad treatment in this patch and maces were kinda nerfed. But Druid on the other hand was buffed, specifically for Condi Alacrity build. As it was missing some concentration, it was added under Natural Balance trait. Force of Nature buff was changed, so now it grants 10% damage and heal bonus instead of 25%, which will change the main weapon for DPS builds. But this still works as a good main hand heal or support weapon. And there was also a buff to Untamed Teleport skill Unnatural Traversal, which will grant quickness instead of might, and has 10 stacks of vulnerability instead of 2. Next we have Engineer, which also got some nice buffs as Shortboat in that form wasn't doing much. So some buffs and changes were introduced to make it more appealing. In addition to this, Holosmith got a buff to the power build too, which was very much needed to be honest. Same like with Power Harbinger, I think we will need another round of buffs to make it a meta choice. But still, at least for now, you will not be terribly behind the Condi DPS version. Mech got a nice change too, and now Mechanical Genius is only a 20% increase in cooldowns for the mech skills instead of the 50% that we had. And the last medium armor class is Thief, and this time is not on the nerf list. Let's start with Deadeye, which had the most buffs. The spec was reworked to be competitive with the other quickness providers and give more useful boons and not just quickness. Daredevil had small buffs too for some skills and a rework to Havoc Specialist, so now you do not need to dodge like a madman. And Spectre got... Spectre got nothing. Now let's move on to the next class, Warrior, which got fixes, so you can still play heal support builds without problems. Oh wait, there was a small buff to the last stand trait to provide more barrier. But things are looking good for Warrior with all types of support and DPS builds. Revenant on the other hand has received some buffs. First on the list was Hammer, but that was related to PvP and World vs World. For PvE we had big changes to Renegade, which makes sense as in my opinion was a bit neglected and the focus was on Vindicator and Herald. The buffs were directed at the legendary Alliance stance, where all skills have been buffed and an enhanced effect was added when you activate a second Alliance skill. I haven't tested this myself, but it looks like all build types were buffed. And the final class on the list is Guardian, which to my surprise was not nerfed, or maybe just a bit with Glacial Heart trait, which now heals instead of damaging enemies. As for the good part, we had a lot of quality of life changes, like Sword Tree and Woolbender's Heaven Palm, that lets you move while casting. Feel My Wrath is now granting super speed too, and Flash Combo doesn't punish you if you do not hit your target with all hits anymore. The other utility skills have been buffed too, but I rarely use those. All I can say is that this balance patch is a nice one. Fingers crossed the next one will not completely nerf things into the ground. As for the changes that I like the most, I think Willbender is becoming again one of my favorites, and Firebrand is finally usable for me in terms of weapons with the pistols. I have already switched my quickness build to the one with pistols and it's really nice to play, but it's still hard to decide between it and Mesmer. What about you? What do you think about this patch? Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to see more content like this, please let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, please click the like and subscribe buttons.